Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the new screensavers is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com. The new screensavers is brought to you by ProXPN. ProXPN is a virtual private network that allows you to use the internet the way it should be, anonymously and without oversight. Save 50% off a 12-month subscription. Go to proxpn.com/twit and use the code NSS50 at checkout. And by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one easy integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay, period. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/NSS.
Two phones enter, one phone leaves. It's the Note 5 versus the OnePlus Two. Also, Martians in Hawaii, Ashley Madison in disarray, and a way to make your GoPro footage look rock solid. Live from the Twit Brick House in beautiful downtown Petaluma, it's the new Screensavers!
You're so cool. You're so cool. Well, I love the way you just, with one finger, you just turn the segue like that. It's one finger there.
I think I was the green and blue shirt, not the red and blue shirt.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new Screensavers, episode 16. We're recording this on Saturday. It says July 22nd. I think that's an error, a typo. This would be August 22nd, 2015. I'm Leo Laporte. That's Patrick Norton. Hey, Patrick Norton.
How are you, sir?
Good to see you again.
Good to be here again.
We're going to do a little phone roundup, and I think you felt a little left out because I had two phones, and you whipped three out.
And then I put one back.
You use a Moto G day to day, though.
Actually, I use an iPhone 6 day to day.
Okay.
If I didn't want to spend all the money on a phone, I would be all over the Moto G4 4G LTE right now, the new Moto G. It is amazing.
Isn't it great?
It's fantastic. They solved all the issues I had with the one I was carrying.
Yeah, and it's cheap, $200.
Yes.
But I also see an LG G4 there.
Yes.
And, well, we're going to take a look at the latest, the Note 5. This is crazy time.
Yes.
New phones like crazy. New iPhones will be out in a week or two.
Hopefully the new Apple TV.
They say September 18th, it'll be the ship date on the iPhones for after September 9th launch. That makes sense. Apple TV does really need to be updated a lot.
Yes and no. I mean, it works, but when you look at it versus like the Roku and the boxes that have come out, basically all the Android-powered boxes. It's
I have the
time.
Shield, the Android TV Shield.
I just want to see
device.
applications show up on the Apple TV.
It's frustrating even on the Shield because it has Netflix, but it doesn't have Amazon. It's still missing a few apps. But boy, wouldn't it be great to have an app store? In fact, a number of people said, because Apple's apparently negotiations with the networks are slowed down, a number of people have said, don't worry about that. Just put an app store. It'll all get solved by these companies.
Everything we need is already on the iPhone. Just slide it over.
So Ashley Madison in the news. That's the site for married folk who want to hook up. And
they could be single. I mean, if you're willing to, it's what a mess. So the ultimate nightmare for a company that is supposed to be selling discrete services to people who want to do things that are, generally speaking, outside of the bounds of open relationships, considered extremely naughty. On top of that, have been selling this like privacy feature or
$19 will remove your name from the database.
That didn't turn out to be true.
In fact, that was the thing that miffed the hackers, which I thought was funny.
Yes.
They said, they're not really removing your name. It's still in the database. In fact, here.
Yeah. And they consider the whole service itself to be unethical. So they...
isn't that funny? Hackers thinking anything is unethical?
Well, there's moral hacking.
But stealing somebody's data is unethical. Releasing worse, private data to the internet so that wives and husbands can look up their spouse's names.
I mean, they released it to the data basically just to put Ashley Madison out of business.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think they cared whether, because I don't think they're the ones who set up the search. Because like literally, it was like the altitude Madison data has been dumped on the dark net.
300 gigabytes, lots.
10 gigabytes total, I guess they took. But the
Oh, okay.
10 gigabytes, what doesn't matter. A
So the
tremendous
initial
amount
dump
of
was
data.
10 gigs, and then apparently another 20 gigs, but they claim they have a total of 300 gigs.
That's a lot of data. So
Including corporate data, like emails
Yeah.
from the CEO and so forth.
which is just going to be thrilling reading.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Did you kind of go in the, because people have made database searches.
Right.
Did you go in there and search for names? And
No.
no, me neither. I feel like this is a good time to avert your eyes and move on.
Well, it's messy and it's nasty and
Let's just
you know,
not.
the only people that are happy right now are lawyers.
Yeah.
Going, yes!
Divorce lawyers. On Hub.
This is exciting.
Surprised me. Google announced a router on Tuesday.
Yeah, I didn't really see it myself because, you know, Google's like, okay, we're going to do Project Loon. We've got, you know, gigabit Ethernet. Or gigabit to the curb. We've got phones. We've got a router, right? So it looks a lot like something that Amazon sells.
Doesn't it look like the
curiously enough.
Echo? Yeah.
Or a Mac Pro.
The idea is that there are no wires and there's no antennas, so that, and Google says this in their advertising sheet, you'll put it in public where Wi-Fi will work better than hidden away in the closet, right? You won't mind having that. I like that. That looked like Walt Mossberg trying to aim his
It could be.
laptop.
They've
So
got the
I
budget.
ordered one. Did you order one?
I ordered one.
$200. It's a little pricey.
Well, there's a whole series of like the latest generation AC 1750, AC 1950, AC 4733 because we added everything together to create a new number, right? So there's a lot of routers being sold. Asus is selling a ton of routers in that
I like
space.
Asus stuff,
Linksys
yeah.
is selling a ton of routers in that space. In a lot of ways, it's a nice time to be releasing a new router because people are getting faster speeds at home. And it was interesting. The thing that kind of struck me about this is a bunch of the nerdiest, most technical people I knew were like, oh my goodness, Google's releasing a router. You know, somebody I know, I can't really mention, you know, talked about how the antenna design is pretty amazing, the intelligence.
13 antennas.
And a whole bunch of intelligence being thrown at it, the idea that it's going to configure itself, it's going to look for the best configuration for your neighborhood, continue to do that like every 15 minutes in perpetuity. And I think Google was just, I think the end result of Google running fiber was them discovering how badly routers suck.
This is, you know, the one reason I want this. This is one router that won't have buffer bloat, right?
We hope.
Because buffer bloat is a well-known problem among geeks. In fact, you can use Nettalyzer or something to analyze your buffer. As RAM got cheaper, router manufacturers just decided to put more RAM in. Why not? It's cheap. Put more RAM in. Turns out there is an optimal amount, and putting more can actually make performance worse. We call it buffer bloat.
Right.
I figure Google knows about this and is going to do it right.
One would hope.
Yeah.
One would hope.
That's the main reason I'm buying it.
Well, it's going to be interesting. You have one ordered. I have one ordered. We're obviously going to immediately fire it up the day
You
it shows
got yours
up.
from Walmart?
It was the only place left that had them.
Yeah.
Whether or not it'll actually, it was funny because I ordered it. They canceled the order. I reordered it. I got this email like 24 hours later. It was like, you know, we couldn't verify your information. We've canceled your order. What? So I ordered it again. Then I get a phone call, presumably from somewhere in Arkansas, verifying that it was me. And then they decided to let the order go through. So in theory, it's going to show up September 1st.
Really?
Yeah.
See, mine says, and I got it from Google, October 1st through 5th. I'm a little disappointed. Well, you'll have to let us know how it works.
I will be happy to.
It has some other weird technologies that look like they're for home automation, particularly like 802.15.4, which is Zigbee.
Yes.
It's going to support the new Weave, Google's new Weave protocol, and their Brillo Internet of Things protocol. So I feel like that's what this is really all about. It's the first step into home automation.
Are they releasing it before Apple's new Apple TV comes out?
You bet. Because that's going to do the same thing, right?
One would hope.
We don't know, because Apple didn't tell me anyway.
Could we have apps?
You know what I like to do right about now?
Answer a question?
Yeah, how'd you know? It's time for a call for help. Patrick Norton, let me introduce you to Jeffrey from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Jeffrey, are you there? Wow.
Styling.
Dressed up for us.
Well, yeah, Karsten told me that the best dress gets a selection of one of your phones.
Oh. Oh, isn't that nice?
It's going to be a loud conversation between Leo and Karsten
Isn't
after
that
the show.
nice?
Was I wrong? Is he
Hey,
wrong?
no. You'll get one of my phones.
I gave,
great. Thanks.
yeah, look how well dressed. See, the problem is you don't automatically win. That's all. Karsten's the one who looks like the good humor man. You are in Baton Rouge. Do you say laissez les bon temps rouler?
Only in mixed company.
Okay. Not with two geeky guys. What can we do for you?
Yeah, so I'm a cord cutter, been that for a while, and I'd like to get all the channels that I can. And anyways, we have channels about 120 degrees apart, and I wanted to see if I could perhaps take two antennas and combine them together across the streams or so. And I've read a bunch of different things about it, and it seems that it's possible there'd be interference and or crosstalk, or one antenna signal might be too strong and go up into the other antenna, which then I might be broadcasting back out. I don't know. And then the second part is the ATSC 3 standard that's coming out. Will that mean I'll need to get a new antenna in addition to new tuners?
Boy, am I glad you're here, Patrick Norman. I don't even know
Well,
what
the
he's talking
ATS3
about.
one came out of nowhere, which feels just like the old screensavers.
They didn't prepare us for that. So you're talking about over-the-air reception. And that, by the way, if you can get over-the-air, that makes cord cutting a lot more feasible, because you're going to get the live local channels, you're going to get the Super Bowl and the Academy Awards, all this stuff that's going to be very hard to get over the top, because you won't have a live local station. That's apparently what Apple's trying to solve, is making deals with local stations so that you don't need an antenna. We up here in Petaluma, we get one channel, channel 50. It's great if you want to learn how to do home canning, but it's not so good for the Academy Awards and the Super Bowl.
Well, you can also, if you live up on the hill and you put a tower up, you might get enough line of sight.
Well, I gather that's what you're kind of doing, Jeffrey. You need a pretty big antenna to receive the locals. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I'm about 25 miles out, although it's Louisiana, so we're pretty flat.
And you said that one's here and one's 120 degrees in the other direction, which is almost exactly the opposite direction.
This is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. So there's so much information about antennas on the internet, and so much of it is done by people that don't really know a lot about RF. I'm going to be cruel.
And that's
say
a
that.
black art, I got to say.
Yes.
To know about RF is to know something.
Yeah, and it's funny where we watch somebody who is an engineer and a ham radio enthusiast explaining what you need to do this, and somebody in the next paragraph, no, it doesn't work, you got crosstalk. Thank you. Usually all in caps.
Ask a ham. That's my trick.
In theory, ideally you want to have two identical antennas. You can do it with two different antennas, but then you get into total hit and miss land and experimentation, which I presume you don't want to spend hours and days and weeks of your life doing this. So what you want to get is two antennas as direction, basically you want them to have as tight a beam as possible, and then you need two of the exact same length of coax, and then you need to tie those into a splitter. And at that point, if you keep the antennas pointed separate enough, you should actually be able to combine the signals from the two different directions and run those into your tuner. Does that make sense?
And you won't.
That sure does. I was thinking.
You won't get phase problems or some interference.
That's where it gets. Well, if you put them my understanding is the bigger issue is if you have a couple of antennas that are fairly close and fairly broad beams on the antennas themselves, that's where it creates problems. But 120 degrees of separation, especially if you do two longer wires and put one down and one up higher. But generally speaking, if you have two identical lengths of coax running to a high quality splitter, then run the output from the splitter to your tuner, you've got a good chance of actually making it work. But you are going to have to get two new antennas, you're going to have to aim them properly, and you're going to have to probably build your own cables to do this.
Now you mentioned ATSC. ATSC stands for American Standard Television.
It's the television thing.
It's the standard for over-the-air broadcast, ATSC. ATS3, which is a digital standard that will allow a lot of new capabilities, is completely incompatible with existing broadcasters.
Perfect.
They'd have to get new transmitters, new antennas, the whole thing. In other words, don't worry about ATSC3. It's far enough off that I think that's not something you need to worry about right now. The interesting thing, your timing is good. I just read an article, a research study on cord cutting, and for the first time ever, you're seeing incredible drops in the number of people subscribing to cable TV. There's the ATSC 3 letter, and you can read about this, ATSC, where we stand, next generation standard, et cetera, et cetera. and it looks like it's pretty far off. It's a difficult thing to do. This is from the ATSC.org newsletter. You could find this article.
It's kind of like 802.11 AC. Everybody's using it.
Yeah, everybody's using it, except nobody's using it, right? Then because there's no standard yet. Then the other article, oh, here it is. This is from Business Insider. Cable TV subscribers going way down. Netflix up about 30% year over year.
Right.
Cable television households down around 11%. See that blue line? That is the year-to-year growth for cable subscribers, and you see the line with the little hashes in the middle. That's 0. It's gone negative for the last 2 quarters, and it's going down fast. That means people are not subscribing to cable. They're dropping their cable subscriptions. Cord cutting is accelerating.
And that's a big deal, because a few years ago, there were all these people like, Comcast lost 30,000 subscribers last month. It's an obvious sign that cord cutting is taking off. Well, when you have 21 million subscribers,
30,000.
and it's the month after Christmas, and everybody's canceling cable because they have to pay off their credit card bill from Christmas, 20,000 actually isn't a lot. That could be a typical month's churn, but 10%?
10%'s a lot.
That's a lot.
Netflix went up to 35% growth. Cable households has dropped 10%. That's in the last 5 years. It's not over for cable companies, but you're starting to see it snowball a little bit. So you're on the right side of technology. Don't worry about ATSC3. Do you recommend AntennaWeb.org? What do you recommend for antenna?
TV Fool. Actually.
TV Fool is awesome.
Yeah.
The problem is every time we mention TV Fool, it goes the site goes down.
Goes down.
TVFool.org, I think, is it? Yeah.
So if your name begins with A through G, you can check TV Fool now. If your name begins with G through M, you can check 2 hours from now. And if your name begins with
TVFool.com. That's a great
stuff.
site. Sounds like you already know about it, Jeffrey.
And Robert Heron's actually had some good stuff.
He's a big fan.
HeronFidelity.com. If you go over there, he's got some good antenna
would know.
recommendations on there.
Hey, Jeffrey, you did win the Best Dressed Caller Award.
We have another caller, though.
But it's not over yet, and he's running out to get his ball gown. So it might be touch and go. We'll award at the end of the show. How about that?
All right, great. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
you guys
Jeffrey.
have been much more helpful than Comcast customer service.
Well, you know what's funny? Why do you want a cord cut? It's not to save money, is it? Because Comcast has raised the cost of internet to the point where when you add that plus HBO Now, Showtime, Sling TV,
no,
it's kind of close, isn't it?
No, it was the last cable bill I saw was like $180. So, and that was several years ago. So maybe they've dropped the prices since then, but I'm still really happy paying Comcast as little money as I can.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it is people just hate the cable company. Right?
But you and I have special reasons to hate the cable company.
Yeah, hey, it's great to talk to you, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you later. Bye-bye. Here's how you can be on our next show.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
Thank you, Jeff Cutler. Well, I got both in hand. The Note 5, the OnePlus 2 hot phones just came out this week. All About Android host Jason Howell is here. We're going to take a look at the Note 5, a little head-to-head battle between the Note 5 and the OnePlus 2 coming up in just a bit. But first, Becky Worley with a tip.
Hey, I'm Becky Worley from Good Morning America and friend and ally of Leo's for, about 100 years. We've been together since the original screensavers, but I have a tip for you today that is going to save you time. You know, you cut and paste something from a website into a Word document, and it comes in all kinds of weird formatting, like it's super big, or it's blue, or it's in Comic Sans Serif. You know, the thing is, you don't have to keep that formatting. Is it Comic Sans or Comic Sans Serif? Regardless, it's the comic format that you don't want in your Word document. Well, there's an easy way to clear that formatting without having to remember, was I Helvetica or Times New Roman? No, what you do is you highlight all that text that you just imported into your Word document. You cut and paste it into your Word document, right? You highlight that text, and then 2 magic keystrokes. Control, space. And what that does, it takes all that highlighted text and formats it to match the existing formatting that is in the document already. That means it'll make it the same size, it'll make it the same font, it'll make it the same color. Hallelujah, all with 2 simple strokes. You can find more great tips like this, if I do say so myself, by following me on Twitter. I'm at bworley, and I am also on Good Morning America some mornings, and otherwise I'll just show up every once in a while here on the Twit to give you my tips. Take care.
I love Becky Worley. We had a nice little barbecue after the show last week. It was a lot of fun. And mostly the burns have healed now. Coming up, a OnePlus 2 versus Note 5 showdown. But first, a word from our great sponsors at ProXPN. We've talked before about privacy on the internet, protecting yourself from snoopy ISPs, from geographic restrictions. The best way to do that, or if you're on an open Wi-Fi hotspot from the guy sitting next to you having a cup of joe, the best way to do that is with a VPN, a virtual private network. Many people first experience VPNs at work, right? When you go to your office from your home, you're in a protected, encrypted tunnel that keeps the bad guys from logging into your corporate network. Well, it's a great tool for somebody who wants to surf privately. But setting up an open VPN server, not so easy. And the best way to do it, frankly, with ProXPN, because they've got servers all over, not just the US, but England, Singapore, Holland. They're all over the world. So you can emerge on the public internet pretty much anywhere you want, eliminating any issues about geographic restrictions. There's no IPv6 traffic leakage, no DNS hijacking. They're fully protected and up to date. And you know what? After talking with Steve Gibson, the folks at ProXPN, they'd only been keeping their logs for 2 weeks for I guess, troubleshooting. They decided to do 0 logging. So unlike other VPNs, ProXPN keeps 0 record of your online activity. They know nothing, and that's really good if you're worried about law enforcement knocking on their door. You get complete privacy, a 512-bit encryption tunnel, a 2048-bit encryption key. If you're on a mobile device that doesn't support VPN, they also do PPTP. And incidentally, they have great Android and iOS apps that give you OpenVPN on those mobile platforms. Their software for Windows and Mac is great too. It gives you advanced controls so you can select ports, make sure that VPNs are connected whenever you are online. You can even select what programs would be shut down if your anonymous connection ever should be interrupted. I love ProXPN. Steve loves it too. That's why we are offering a very special deal for you. You can use it for free, but the premium service is going to be a little bit faster. Normally $10 a month at proxpn.com. If you go to proxpn.com/twit and use the code NSS50, that's for the new screensavers, NSS50 at checkout, 50% off the monthly price. You do need to sign up for a 12-month subscription, but that continues for the lifetime of your account. That means it's less than $5 a month with the year plan. That's a really great deal. And of course, you can cancel within 7 days for a full refund. So if you just want to try before you buy, proxpn.com/twit. Don't forget that offer code, NSS50. And for additional anonymity, yes, of course, they accept Visa and PayPal, but they also accept Bitcoin. I think that's pretty cool. proxpn.com/twit. Use the offer code NSS50. I love it that they've been talking to Steve Gibson. They're open to his suggestions, and they've really improved the service thanks to Steve's recommendations and made it even more private and faster. They've got new and more servers, and it's just, I love the service. proxpn.com/twit. All right, Patrick and Norton and I are here with Mr. Jason Howell, host of All About Android. Great to see you.
Great to see you guys.
So this was a kind of a fun week.
Yeah.
We got phones.
That's right. It's been raining phones the last week or so. It's awesome.
In some ways, I dread this because
yeah, I know.
After a while, I just want to use one phone and so.
I think the hardest part for me, is that I will get a mix of like really top of the line phones, also kind of lower to mid range devices, and when you're reviewing both different scales kind of around the same time, it's really hard to not judge one based on the other.
Yeah, and it's not fair.
It's not fair, exactly.
So you like the Moto G3, the new Motorola G. Well, it's awesome, but you don't want to put it head to head with something like the Note 5.
Right. Well, on one hand, first of all, I'm laughing because you've been changing phones minimum every 3 months since like the year 2000.
I resisted this.
Okay.
I did, because I didn't want to be the gadget guy. But nowadays, these phones are our primary computers. And they're I mean, when you're talking about an octa-core processor running as fast as 2.4 gigahertz, 4 gigs of RAM, and a quad HD screen, you're talking a high-end computing system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as somebody who, the reason I stopped using the Moto G4G LTE, which was $170 when I bought it, this was the previous generation. Part of the reason I got rid of it was because the camera was atrocious.
Yeah.
And I wanted a better camera, so I went to the iPhone 6 when it finally came out.
And there's nothing better than the iPhone camera.
It's getting much, much better. They fixed a lot of the fundamental core issues inside of Android that were creating issues for good photography. But what's interesting is it's really hard when you're looking at, like, I've got an LG G4. It's tough for me to go like, oh, if I already have a flagship phone that's less than 2 years old, is it really that much better? This might be a good one.
Well, here's a challenge, because let me show you these. So this is the Note 3. I've owned every Note since the Note 1. And I eliminated the Note 1 and 2.
You can put them all together and have like a widescreen.
But they don't look much different. That's the Note 4.
He's not a gadget guy.
That's
he
the Note
just
5.
has a phone addiction.
I love the Note. And you all laughed at me when I first put the Note to my head and you said, what is that giant phone? Now it looks completely normal, doesn't it?
Totally
We're
normal.
so used to phablets. It's not weird to have a giant phone.
It's the other direction that looks weird now.
Right.
It
What's
looks
that
like
little
a toy.
phone?
Yeah.
So this is 5.7 inches. It is really expensive. This was over $800. This is the AT&T version. They've improved the fingerprint reader. No more swiping as you used to do. This is pretty much like the S6. You just put your finger on it. It's fast. You have up to 5 fingerprints you can read in there. It is a quad HD screen, and it is gorgeous. It's OLED, so the whites are crisp and white. In fact, almost too white for our camera. As you can see, the blacks are pitch black. In every respect, this is a gorgeous phone. The camera, much improved. It's a 16 megapixel shooter, same camera as in the S6. So if you tried the S6, which I loved, it's the same camera. There are some differences. Unlike the S6, as with all the Notes, we now have a stylus, right? You pull it out, and here's a cool thing. So the phone is off. I pop the stylus, but I can write on the phone with the screen off. So this is great if you want to write something down real quickly and you save it, and then it opens up the Note app and saves it right out to the Note app. That's a nice feature.
Yeah, that's totally
I don't use the stylus much, but if you're a handwriting person or you just find it easier to write down phone numbers than to type them, this is a nice feature. That's a really great feature. They've backed off on TouchWiz. TouchWiz was always kind of a problem. This is a Lollipop 511. Not completely stage fright ready. That most recent exploit, it's still susceptible to it. I'm sure they'll fix that soon. Samsung, I think, understands we want a more pure Android experience, and this is pretty close to a pure Android experience. They certainly don't have as much of the TouchWiz stuff in it. And I notice each time they do another phone, they back off even a little bit more. So I have a feeling,
the last few years.
you know, if you see the system, it's still that Samsung. They've got paginated system settings and so forth. But you'll recognize them. They're all very familiar from people who are using Lollipop. I feel like they've done a nice job at backing off on TouchWiz. As a result, unlike even the S6, there's no lag here. It's very responsive. You see, I'm not using the standard interface. I'm using, I love the Tesla coils.
And Nova.
Nova, that's my favorite. In fact, what I do with all phones is I basically put the same setup on all phones, so I have a similar experience. Sometimes I'll hold back on some of the applications so that I don't drain the battery. This time I loaded it up. I want to see how it works in real world situation. I am happy to say we were a little worried because there's no removable battery, there's no SD card. Look at that beautiful back. All those fingerprints. It just picks them up perfectly.
That's texture.
That's texture. But I love the curved glass back. It's really nice. Most people are going to end up putting a case on it anyway, so who cares?
Possibly a keyboard case.
Not that keyboard case. That thing is horrible. Jokey. It's a capacitive.
Yeah, it's a capacitive. That's
like you're typing.
That's the slap in the face.
Yeah.
So
it's not available yet, so I didn't get it.
It's pretty much the same thing as using the touch screen. It's just.
This has a Samsung Loop Pay, so you can use it with card swipes as well as touch to pay. It has NFC in it. Really nice camera. In fact, I took pictures with both the OnePlus 2 and this, so we'll get a chance to compare those.
Great.
I did some slow motion. This has one of the nicest features, I think, in the camera. It's live streaming to YouTube, instant live streaming to YouTube. So earlier during the setup for the show, it's one button. You open the camera. It's one of the modes on the camera. By the way, the camera's very fast, very responsive. And then you can just start YouTube streaming with the live broadcast button. And it literally starts up almost instantly. Let's turn it upside down. And all of a sudden, and I've tied it so it's a public broadcast immediately. You can make it a private broadcast to begin. Almost instantly, you're streaming on YouTube.
All right.
How do you like me
nose.
now, huh? So if you go to the Leo Laporte channel on YouTube, I have a couple of examples of live streaming. It does a good job. I think it's Periscope or Meerkat-like, but it's permanent on YouTube if you want. You can leave it there forever. And as I was saying, unlike even the S6, because I think they've backed up on TouchWiz, because they put 4 gigs of RAM in this thing, the octa-core processor, that's the live stream earlier as we were rehearsing the show. Look at the quality. I think it's great, 720p. I don't get the lag and delay that I've got even on the S6. It's snappy. I think 4 gigs of RAM made a big difference. So I have to say I'm really pleased with the Note 5. The only negative, because it doesn't have a removable battery, it does have Qi charging. It also has power mat charging, and it has quick charging, Qualcomm style, is the battery life isn't superb. But it is better than I thought. This is a little bit smaller than the Note 4
Which is kind of
battery.
weird.
Yeah, they went
that was a
backwards.
huge reason for the larger form factor, is to pack a larger battery in there.
But I'm still getting roughly 10 to 12 hours of battery life. Quick charge means I can charge this up fully up in about an hour. It says here, I run the GSAM battery monitor, and I've only had it 5 days, so it's still early, but it says 13 hours of battery life. I took it off the charger at 9 o'clock, still 50% here at about 3:30. So to me, that's good enough. I'm gonna get to dinner. I'll plug it in at dinner,
get through the day.
and I'll get through the rest of the evening. So it's pretty good, but not great. That is the Note 5 in a nutshell. Jason Howell, you've had the OnePlus 2 for a week. What do you think?
Not quite a week. I think we received it on
Monday, right?
Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
We got it on Wednesday. I was expecting to get it Thursday, so that was an extra day. But as I was saying at the beginning of this segment, I was reviewing,
it's a first
up until
look.
that point, a new Z8, which I had never really heard of the new phone. So I'm going from like one end of the spectrum potentially to another. But so the OnePlus 2, obviously the follow-up to the OnePlus One, they're touting this as the 2016 flagship killer. Not 2015, because that's the year that we're in right now, 2016. So next year's flagship killer. I'm not quite so sure it necessarily holds up to that that promise, but you can get it 16 or 64 gig models, $329 to $389. So the big side here is that it's a value play, right? They're going for high performance, low price.
Half the cost of this Note 5.
It is, and it has a lot of comparable features anyways. 1.8 gigahertz octa-core Snapdragon 810 processors. That's pretty good processor.
They've solved the heat problem on this too. It's a later generation.
Running super hot.
Yeah.
This is the 64 gig model, so it has 4 gigs of RAM, like your Note.
You'll want that.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend to kind of pay the extra. I think it's $50 to get the next size up. 5.5-inch display, 1080p. All right, so it's not like a 4K display, UHD display. That's 401 pixels per inch. Personally, I think that's totally sufficient, unless you plan on using this for virtual reality, and blowing up those pixels in a goggle. Otherwise, you're probably pretty good here. The camera on board, now they really are talking up the camera here. It's a 13 megapixel rear-facing camera with OIS, optical image stabilization, as well as laser autofocus. Personally, and I'll be curious to hear what you have to say, I've been pretty unimpressed with the camera. More or less, I get a lot of blurry, fuzzy pictures, really good, solid punch of light, and it's gonna look great. Low light, haven't been super impressed by it.
Laser focusing, I noticed this on the LG G4 as well, seems to be a little bit slower.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, you hear the word laser and you think, oh wow, this is gonna be the fastest thing in the world. Lasers, they're the new thing, right? Like 50 years ago. But no, I feel like it's really slow. Like I feel like shutter and autofocus on this thing are really slow.
I think that's the knock on that. We have some images. Do you have those, Brian? I took the same image with both the Note 5 and the OnePlus 2. One thing you'll notice immediately, the Note 5 shoots 16:9.
Yeah,
The OnePlus 2 is a little bit more square. Now, I think...
So this is a 16:9.
And this is, by the way, a little daylight coming in from the window, but it's, I would say, a low light situation. Pretty crisp. Can you, they're out of order.
Yeah, you want to do the side-by-side?
Yeah.
So this is the same shot.
That's the OnePlus 2. I think it's close.
Yeah.
I think it's close.
You're holding it super still.
Yeah, you really have to be careful.
That's another really big one, right? Like,
so there's the Note 4 of the cats. By the way, red, very difficult for these cameras to reproduce. That's why I had a red blanket in the background, and I think it does a good job with those. Now, this is interesting. This is the OnePlus 2, and it was a much darker image.
than the Note 4 version. This is outdoors in broad daylight. It's a little bit of a cloudy day. Sorry, those are out of order. But you see the difference.
Yeah.
I don't think, though, that in clarity and color reproduction, they're both good.
Yeah, it's just one's a little bit.
Yeah, maybe the Note, I would, just looking, by the way, sorry about my hand. That's one problem with 16:9.
I can't believe your thumb isn't in focus
My thumb
there.
is in the picture. I feel like the Note 5 is faster and does, I would say, a better job. I think those images are somewhat better.
I mean, and this is, yes. It's nice for a camera if you're talking mid-range, right? This is I think the crux of the OnePlus Two.
It's a heck of a lot better than the G3, than the Moto G, right?
Oh, then the Moto G,
Yeah,
it probably would be. Actually, the Moto G has the Nexus 6 camera in it, right?
Yeah.
In my head, I feel like I'm getting better pictures out of the 6 than I am this.
Really? Okay,
So
interesting.
but I don't know how that translates to the G.
Well, you have children; they move.
Exactly. That's, I think, the big problem. But that's why I'm always dissatisfied with camera, right? I want a camera phone that I can just point at my kids, even though they're moving a mile a minute, and it's going to give me a good picture. And I rarely, if ever, get that.
The thing
Maybe
I fell
I'm
in love
just
with,
expecting too much.
Well, no, but I mean, I fell in love with burst mode in iOS or on the iPhone 6 because I would literally just hold my thumb down and rattle off like 40 shots.
Yeah.
And that's like the joy of digital photography. It's like, well, if I take enough shots, one of them is not going to look awful.
Right.
Yeah.
So they left a lot of stuff out of here. At least a few key things, right?
Yeah.
You do get the fingerprint reader, which I think
And a
is
good one. It's just as fast as the Note 5.
See, and I'm having trouble with the fingerprint reader too. Maybe I'm using this phone wrong, but I don't know.
Well, let me unlock
sometimes
mine, and
it'll
we'll
take me 3
we'll
to 4
see.
times.
Really?
Yes.
I would re-register your fingerprints because.
I've done that a
Okay,
couple.
ready? 1, 2, 3, unlocked. Mine beat you.
Okay, it beat it.
I think your fingerprints. You know what? Do you do a lot of manual labor? Have you ever been a safe cracker at any time in your life?
Nothing
Have you
I
ever
know of.
sanded
I do a lot of
down?
yard work.
You know what? You think I'm joking, but your loops and whorls may not be as good as my loops and whorls, or as easy to read. I'm just saying.
I'll work on getting those things a little bit more pronounced.
I think I'm so glad there are fingerprint readers in these new phones.
No,
I feel like
agree
this is
completely.
great. But you and I discovered the same problem together on the fingerprint reader. It doesn't work with LastPass.
Well, yeah, you have to imagine that's a software issue, and LastPass is probably going to roll out some sort of an update that allows it. But it does kind of make you scratch your head a little bit and wonder why it doesn't instantly recognize
I blame
fingerprint.
Oxygen, which is the OnePlus 2 version of Android 5.1.1. It's not finished.
It
and
isn't.
I feel
No,
like
that's
little
another
things
knock I
like
have
that
on
are
it.
missing. Like that's something that should have been in there. It's an API and it's not there.
That's why it's the 2016.
Oh,
It'll be
right.
a flagship killer next
Like,
year.
we got a whole year. Yes, we've at least got 6
But I
months.
do like it that it's very close to pure Android, and they've brought back some of the Cyanogen mod gestures. You can knock it and turn it on. You can knock it and turn it on. Usually it'll turn right on when you knock it.
Do thumb twice. And
You
go
can
to
do
the camera.
V, and that'll turn on. Yeah. Anyway, those gestures are.
Those gestures should be pretty awesome.
Seen it work now.
Yeah,
it's the demo
see?
gods. It never
There you
works.
go. Doesn't have NFC.
That really
For a
kills me.
flagship killer to not have NFC, I know this is the argument
How
that's
hard
been
could
going
that
around
be?
forever on this phone, ever since we started hearing more details about it. But I feel like NFC, to me, is a standard feature on even low-range, low-end, mid-range phones.
To me, it's a
needs to be
non-starter.
there,
Yeah.
particularly because this next year is going to be a big one for mobile payments.
Right.
Mobile payments is already kind of seeing a big upturn, and now Android Pay is right around the corner. I think it's pretty unfortunate that it's not here. USB-C on the bottom, so that's the new type of connector that's reversible. I actually have OnePlus's.
That's a blessing and a curse.
Here. It really is, right? Because I only have one of these, and I realize
Exactly.
this is the problem that you have when you first get into a new standard, is that everything that you have is for the old standard. So if I want to charge my phone the way I'm used to, I have chargers everywhere throughout my home.
Right.
I have to go upstairs.
Yeah.
Very
It's a
small
little
price to
frustrating.
pay.
But-
I swear,
but
it's not a big deal, but it's still a little annoying.
I've spent,
I just need to get more cables, basically.
$80 on Anchor Lightning cables for the iPhone
Right.
since I bought the iPhone
Same thing.
6 because literally, there's one in the office, there's one at home, there's one in the car, I need one in my bag, somebody borrowed the one in my bag, I need another one. It sounds silly, but if you are away from home, can you find that connector,
Yeah, right, in a pinch.
At the Walgreens in the middle of nowhere, at the truck stop, in the airport.
Yep.
Did you mention, and I really like this, I wish all phones would have a physical switch like the iPhone. This one, though, supports the 3 standards for Android, which is priority, interruptions only, no interruptions, or all interruptions. So it's a 3 toggle switch that lets you silence the phone or only get priority interruptions. I think that's a nice feature.
And that passes through to your Android Wear watch if you're wearing one.
I'd like to see that on more Android phones.
Yeah, this is one of those features that you never knew you needed until they suddenly showed it off. This is something that I haven't seen before on Android, and it works in tandem with Lollipop and M. Let's hope they don't change how it works, that Google doesn't change how it works, because then this is going to be thrown into a spiral. But right now, that's a pretty awesome feature.
One other thing missing is no wireless or fast charging.
Yeah, that's another tick on it. But I think the battery is actually pretty good. Yeah, I've been really happy with the battery. It's 3,300 milliamp hour. No fast charging on that. But even without fast charging, I find that I can plug it in for a short period of time and still get a lot of charge out of it, more than I've been expecting. And I don't know why that is.
Is the Quad HD sucking down that much power compared to a 1080p screen?
I think that's really the issue. I think the lower res screens is one of the reasons a Moto G also gets great battery life. It's 720 screen. The lower res screens just are not the suckers, the power suckers. Look at, I mean, the battery life thing on this thing is incredible. I took it off the charger at 9 in the morning. It's going to go till 11 a.m. tomorrow. I'm getting about 20 hours of battery life, and in fairly heavy use too. I use these things a lot. So, there is a negative though, and that's the screen. But you may not have noticed that because you're not comparing it to a Note 5.
You mean the comparison of what the screen looks like
when you put them side by
colors
side?
Are gorgeous on the Note 5.
The Note 5, it's OLED versus IPS LCD.
And I feel like the OnePlus has a little bit of a blue hue to it.
It does. It also
feels
hazy because the saturation is lower. You can't really see that on the cameras here, but you can see it in real life. If you just look at, I don't know, you can't really tell. But believe me, the blue on this icon versus the blue on that icon, there's a huge difference in real life. The OnePlus 2 feels a little washed out to me. Did you notice that? Or
I absolutely.
Maybe it's only because I have them side by side that I really noticed that.
I feel like sharpness, it's good. Color reproduction and kind of brightness and stuff, that's where it's kind of
and
lacking.
if I put this away, and remember this costs half as much, it's got twice the battery life.
Yeah.
Pretty decent camera, good fingerprint reader.
You know one of the biggest downsides to the OnePlus One? You're probably not going to be able to buy it.
OnePlus 2? Yeah.
Well, the OnePlus 2. I mean, you're not going to be able to buy it. Let's get real. Like, it's an invite system right now. There are literally millions of people on a wait list right now. And if the OnePlus One is any indication, they're going to trickle out those awards granting you the ability to pay $329 for the phone. So
it might be moot.
I think ultimately where I stand on this is that I'm kind of confused. I don't know if it's targeted to power users, because if it's targeted to power users, why doesn't it have things that you expect like NFC, fast charging, and why are they claiming flagship killer? Because that is not true. If it's targeted to mainstream users, mainstream users don't buy with an invite system online only, right? They buy in the stores, and it might even be priced a little high for some mainstream users based on what they're looking for. So it's almost like it's either an upper mid-range phone or a pre-premium phone. That makes sense. It's a new level in between mid-range and premium.
I think the motto never settle doesn't make a lot of sense for the OnePlus 2. You're settling.
It made more sense for the
OnePlus
OnePlus One than it does the 2.
But it's interesting to contrast. For instance, when you buy the OnePlus 2, if you can buy it, you're getting it unlocked. It'll work on any GSM carrier anywhere. You can only get a Samsung Note 5 through your carrier. They're not selling it unlocked. You have to get it through your carrier.
Sure.
So that means I have the AT&T Death Star on the back and the AT&T apps on the front. And that's not the greatest experience either. So.
It was one of the nice things, my last 2 phones have been unlocked. I've paid for them up front. And in one sense, I mean, flagship killer, pure marketing fluff, because this is a family show. But if you're looking at people who are contemplating like, whoa, I'm going to buy a new phone, I'm going to pay for it, $800 is a lot of money for people who've been used to paying $100 and then being locked into a 2-year contract. So they may be trying to sneak it in as an alternative to phones that cost twice as much. Most of the features, settle for most of the features for half of the money. The invitation system, can they just not make them fast enough at this point?
I think that's
Or are they afraid of just ending up with a gigantic warehouse full of unsold
Despite the connection to Oppo with OnePlus One, I feel like they're just limited in the number they can make.
Right.
And they're selling them as fast as their little feet can.
Yeah.
But it's just, they can't. And you've got a giant like Samsung, it's going to be hard to compete.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I mean, this hurts. It's $850.
Yeah.
And I have a 2-year contract with AT&T. You pay a price, but boy,
given the choice between the two, it's going to be the Note 5 all the way. How about you?
Well, I mean, I have not used the Note 5, but I like a lot of what I see. But yeah, you know, really when it comes down to it, I've gotten so used to buying my devices unlocked the past couple of years that it would be hard for me to go in the other direction. Would I pay $800+ out of my pocket for a Note 5? I probably wouldn't.
It's
I mean,
painful.
personally,
It's painful.
you got to really love and feel like you're going to stick with a phone for like a couple of solid years.
You drop a T-Mobile SIM into that, at least here in the Petaluma area, we get great LTE bandwidth.
Not only could you do that, you could drop another SIM in here and go.
2 SIMs.
Yeah, there's 2 SIMs simultaneously.
Yeah.
So.
There's the pile.
So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that they're kind of different categories, right? Like the Note 5 is the true premium.
Yeah.
This is like a step lower than that. And for the price, I guess it's okay. It's hard to recommend to just everybody because you got to jump through some hoops to get it.
We're not done yet. We'll have reviews of the new iPhones when we get those in mid-September. The Moto X Pure Edition, that's going to be available for order in a few days. September 3rd, I think. Yep. So we haven't seen the end of these. This is crazy.
Season!
It's raining phones. And IFA is coming up, and they'll probably announce some new phones there.
Oh,
Thank you,
boy.
Jason Howell. All
Thank
about
you.
Android. That's where they obsessively discuss this stuff.
Love
Every
it.
Tuesday. It's great. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A must-watch on the Twit Network.
I agree.
Thank you. and Android App Arena if you're looking for apps for your phone. Coming up, Padre has some interviews with some Hawaiian Martians. Marshahunes, they call them. But first, seismologist Julian Lozo. He has some ways you can geek out on the topic of earthquakes. Take a look.
Hi, my name is Julian Lozos. I am at Seismogenic on Twitter. Here's my tip for keeping track of the pulse of earthquake science. Most of what you hear in popular media has been somewhat distilled and talked over by the scientific community already. But if you want to hear what the scientists are saying about what they're working on right now, it's worth checking out the USGS Earthquake Seminar Series. If you're in the Bay Area, you can stop by the USGS office in Menlo Park on Wednesdays at 10:30 in the morning. Or there's an entire archive, I believe it goes back 10 years of different talks of different scientists talking about their own work. So whether you want to know more about earthquakes, more about the process of science, or just you want to hear people nerding out about what they're working on, just search the USGS Earthquake Science Center Seminar Series.
All right, thank you, Julian Lozos. He is a seismologist studying at the U.S. Geological Survey for his Ph.D., and we bring him back all the time because he's great. I love him. I'm very excited about this next segment. Father Robert Balaser, our digital Jesuit, the host of Know-How, Coding 101, This Week in Enterprise Tech, and I'm sure I'm leaving something out because he hosts more shows than I do, got to talk with a couple of guys who are about to go to Mars without leaving the planet Earth. Take a look.
As mankind gets ready to step out into deep space, we first have to start with small steps. And that's what High Seas is all about, preparing to send people to Mars by getting them to live on Earth. I have the pleasure of speaking to 2 of the crew members for the High Seas mission. I've got Cyprian Versu and Anjay Stewart. Now, let's start with Cyprian. Cyprian is the astrobiologist of the crew. Cyprian, could you say a few words about yourself, about what you'll be doing on the mission?
Okay, so I'm a PhD student co-directed between the University of Rome in Italy and NASA in California. And I will be working on how you can survive on Mars using what is already there. Like how you can, using biological systems to produce food, oxygen, and everything you need for astronauts.
Right. And of course, you're already at the High Seas mission location in Hawaii, which is why you're in a Hawaiian shirt and currently surrounded. Where are you exactly?
So I'm actually in a ranch on the main island, and I'm not exactly where the hub is, but I am where we are staying until the mission begins.
Cyprian's responsible for the astrobiology, but of course, they also need someone, a crew member, who can make sure that all the systems continue to run. That's why we've got the Chief Engineering Officer of the High Seas mission, Mr. Anjay Stewart. Anjay, thank you very much for being on the new Screensavers.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So just like with Cyprian, could you explain what is your role on the High Seas mission?
So my role is the Chief Engineering Officer. The habitat itself is a real working system We've got a power supply that's powered by solar panels. We've got limited water, limited power, and it's my job to make sure everything's up and running, working, in good repair. If things break, it's my job to make sure that we're coordinating repairs on those systems. Just overall making sure the habitat is running smoothly throughout the mission.
And you've got a history of doing this space engineering. You served as a flight engineer for the 6th mission of NASA's Human Exploration Research Analog. You simulated a 2-week journey to the asteroid 1620. You have your Bachelor in Science in Aerospace Engineering from University of Texas. And you've got an SM in Aeronautics from MIT. So this is hold the hat for you. This is what you were trained to do.
It was. Now, most of my experience has been working with unmanned spacecraft. I've spent the last 5 years at Lockheed Martin in Denver working on missions like the Spitzer Space Telescope, the Mars orbiters. And with those, it's a lot more computer programming, making sure that the systems are working, but from a really far distance away. For this one, we're going to be in the system and having to make it work while we're living in it. So that's going to be a new experience for me.
Anjay, let me throw over to you here for a second, because I'd like to talk a little bit about the dynamics of the crew. I mean, that's really what you're studying. Can you get those 6 people to live in a very confined environment for a year without killing each other? I mean, let's be honest. That's the psychological part of a mission, and it's actually very important. And part of that is crew selection. Can you talk a little bit about crew selection for high seas?
I can talk a little bit about that. The way the crew was selected was through an application process. From that process, we were down selected to a group of 8. From there, they needed to select 6 prime crew and 2 backups. In order to make that selection, we were sent out to the Grand Tetons, to the National Outdoor Leadership School there. We essentially just went out on a big nature hike, disconnected from the world, just each other and our 2 instructors. And from there, got to know each other, see how we problem solved, how we worked together without anyone else around. And from there, we submitted evaluations of what we thought about the team. I believe the instructors gave their reports as well, and all that fed into the final selection process where 6 of us were chosen.
Right. And of course, it can't just be the people that you like. It has to be people who have the specific skills for the mission. What was determined to be the mission parameters for high seas? Of course, you need an engineer. Of course, you need an astrobiologist. But what were the other roles that you needed filled by crew?
I'm not entirely sure. I know that the makeup of our team is very different from the previous mission, Mission 3. So on that mission, they actually had 4 engineers. For this mission, I'm the only one that has a strict engineering background. Everyone else has either a medical or a scientific background. So I think there's a little bit of flexibility in how they're selecting their crew for each mission.
How do you prepare yourself to be gone for a year? And actually, let me expand that question to everyone. I know that you have married members of the crew. How do you say, I'm going to be gone for a year? I'm being locked away. You won't be able to talk to me. You won't be able to reach me. What's that preparation like?
Well, it helps if you've got a wife who wants to be an astronaut as well and understands what you're doing. It's just been a long process of talking with family members, my mom and dad, for instance, and just letting them know what's going on. It helps that everyone at least my family has been very supportive of the mission, and it's just been sort of a gradual process. We've known long enough that there's just been talking on the phone with folks, sort of going, at least with friends, to sort of last parties and things like that, and just sort of the same things you do if you're going, I guess, leaving and moving to a new place. It's very similar to that. Right. At least with this, though, we'll be coming back after a year, so they'll get to see me again.
Cyprian, you're responsible for doing the experiments that will hopefully be growing things on Mars. But, of course, another component of the mission will be how well you and your crewmates stand up to the rigors of a Mars mission. Will NASA be monitoring your health? And if so, how will they be doing that?
We'll have many questionnaires to test both our mental and physical sanity over the mission. And we also have some different captors, different sensors, which will monitor the interactions between crew members. And we'll have some hormonal tests to see, for instance, how the levels of our stress hormone increase over time. And a few other things that will be told about during this week.
So they're going to be devising situations to throw you into. I'm assuming at some point they're going to try to stress you a little bit?
I don't think they will voluntarily stress us. I think the mission itself is already stressful enough. So it's really just monitoring, and they will not interfere in in our interactions.
Let me ask you a little bit about cooking. You said you're going to be taking turns cooking. How do you cook on Mars?
For us, we have some fairly normal cooking implements. Cooking in 1G or even 2/3 G like you'd have on Mars isn't nearly as bad as it is on the space station. We did get some experience in that in Hera. The system in there was the same systems they were using on the International Space Station, where you can either dehydrate your food or put pre-packaged food into a heater and heat it up. And this will have really more of a conventional kitchen, just because cooking on Mars should be fairly similar to cooking on Earth. Just the ingredients will be a little bit more shelf stable.
Right. And as far as communications are concerned, you're probably not going to get the internet. I mean, not if they're trying to faithfully reproduce life in a hab. But are they going to be introducing delay like you would have if you actually were on the surface of Mars?
They will. And for the folks at home listening, that's a real effect that we see in spacecraft operations, something I've had to deal with back in my job at Lockheed. Whenever you send a signal from Earth, it travels at the speed of light through space. Turns out the planets are so far apart, though, that even at the speed of light, it takes the signals 20 minutes to cross that void, at worst case for Mars. And so we want to make sure that that's involved. That does contribute to how the crew feels isolated from the planet. So any voice communications we have, our email as well, all of that's delayed by 20 minutes in one direction. And then if somebody sends us a response, that's another 20 minutes on top of that.
So I take it no Facebook or Twitter?
No Facebook or Twitter. We do have access to blogs as long as we don't interact with the comment section in real time. We do have a few sites on the internet that will be whitelisted for us to use. The thought behind that is for a crew actually on Mars, there would be a server there that they would send just key websites to and update every once in a while so the crew would be able to get to those. Things like Wikipedia and that sort of thing.
Actually, let me go over to Cyprian. Cyprian, that sounds kind of strange, I know, to some people, but that's actually a really big part of the psychological component, correct? I mean, you need to keep these people healthy. You can't make them completely isolated. You have to give them some sense that they're still connected to Earth.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that can be done on Mars, so why not reproducing it here? Like, you can communicate, you have a delay, but still you can talk to people indirectly. So we'll still have access to email and, discuss, which is very important for sanity, indeed.
Gentlemen, I want to ask one last question here, actually a penultimate question. What would be your biggest fear? Going into this year of isolation, what's the thing that gives you the most anxiety? Cyprian, let's start with you.
Well, to be honest, up till now, I have not really had time to think about it because there is so much preparation work to do. So I will let Anjay answer first and think about an answer in the meantime.
Anjay, the buck has been packed to you.
This is probably going to sound really strange. Probably not the answer you're expecting. I'm a bit of an arachnophobe, and I understand the HAB has a tendency to attract large, hairy spiders. Apart from that, I'm pretty excited to be going. There's nothing that I'd really say I have any fear about right now.
All right, we got spiders. Cyprian, what do you have?
Well, so far, my biggest fear was not to get my visa or not be able to come. Right now, well, there is nothing really like. At the moment, I'm very excited about going, so maybe anxiety will come later, but so far, I'm just happy to go, so.
Good answer. Gentlemen, I just want to say thank you very much for your service. Thank you very much for your time. Advancing the state of our knowledge about space exploration, that's the work of heroes, and you absolutely are heroes. Thank you for giving a year of your life to helping us move to the Red Planet.
Well, thank you for interviewing us. It's been fun. And Cyprian, I'll see you on Saturday, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Cyprian Versu, the astrobiologist, and Anjay Stewart, the Chief Engineering Officer for the High Seas 4 mission. They'll be locking themselves into a HAB for 365 days on the island of Hawaii, and we hope to see them on the other side.
Thank you much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
And thanks to Robert Ballister for that interview. Would you do that? Would you get in the HAB for a year?
No. No, Hawaii is amazing. I love Hawaii. I get island
But you don't get
fever
to see
after,
Hawaii,
4 days
right? Because you're in a tent the whole time.
Well, you're
Would you? Okay. Better question. If I could sign you up for that trip to Mars right now, would you go?
Depends on whether I
You don't get to come back.
Yeah, and there's the
It's a
whole
one-way?
children thing. It's difficult to. Mars is the kind of place to raise a kid.
Are they coming back, or is it a one-way trip to Mars? I think it's a one-way trip, or maybe I'm wrong. They're coming back? Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. And the good news is there's no spiders on Mars, despite what David Bowie might have said.
Cue habit trail jokes.
Yeah. It does look like a habit trail, doesn't it?
I think we have Robert Heron.
Robert Heron's here with a better way to clean your screen.
Hi, I'm home theater expert Robert Heron. Follow me on Twitter @Robert Heron. Hey, if you need to clean your TV screen, it's best to use something like a microfiber cloth. These are cheap, they're affordable, and they're great at removing dust or particles on the screen surface without any cleaners. You never want to spray anything directly onto the screen surface. It could drip down into the frame and cause damage or discolor the plastic. Bad idea. If there's something particularly sticky on the screen, dampen the cloth just slightly with a little bit of clean water and then wipe gently. It's the best way to keep your gear spotless and to give you good picture quality and to keep it looking like it's brand new.
Robert Heron from Heron Fidelity. We love old Robert.
Never underestimate the power of water. Or Robert Heron.
I was surprised because, you know, I was using nail polish remover and little, I don't know, number 0 grit sandpaper on my screen. And I thought that would be the best way. But Robert says no.
No.
Who knew?
Gouging and melting your screen are two very bad things.
I actually use some computer screen cleaner.
Clear screen?
Clear screen with a microfiber cloth. Clear screen is mostly water, I'm sure. And
Yes.
it's the idea is no solvents, right? Because there's a coating on there.
Yeah, I mean, they put all kinds of cool coatings in the front of your screen if you use an industrial solvent, acetone, gasoline.
I could draw my name right in the screen. It's awesome.
And you'll admire it every time you try to watch something else.
Talking about burning.
Oh,
hey, it's time for a call for help. And joining us right now from Los Angeles, California, it is Margot. Hi, Margot.
Hey, Leo. Seeing you for the first time, not the second time.
Yes, no. Pay no attention to that earlier conversation that we did not have. Who's that behind you? It looks like your mom.
Oh, that's my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
My mother's mother, yeah.
Yeah, you look a lot like her. That's really a great picture to have. Isn't? Oh, don't do that.
He actually meant that as a compliment.
No, she's
Oh, thank you.
beautiful.
No, my grandmother was a beautiful woman,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's why we have her up on the wall. So
Isn't that nice?
We can strive for her beauty.
Oh. What can we do for you, Margot?
Okay, well, you know, I want to get a new laptop, and I run Linux. Right now, I have a MacBook Pro, and I dual boot into Ubuntu and the Mac operating system. But for my next laptop, I want to have a single boot into Arch Linux. But I can't decide if I should get a laptop that's designed specifically for a Linux operating system or if I should stick with a MacBook Pro or maybe try something else.
Or do you have a dragon tattoo? I'm just asking.
Oh, yeah. I think.
That's awesome. Why you use Linux as is it your primary operating system or just for fun, or why do you use Linux?
It's my primary operating system. I do a lot of programming. If
That's
you guys
neat.
are talking about Mars, well, I'm an intern at JPL, so
Cool.
I've done a lot. Most of my stuff there is programming for one of the projects, actually an instrument that's going to Mars in 2020. So it's just really easy for me to get packages installed using Linux.
Yeah.
And when you say a Linux-specific laptop, you're thinking something like System 76 or one of the other sort of boutique Linux laptop companies?
Yeah, I've looked into System 76. My only concern is that I wonder in terms of the price tag if I'm paying more kind of because it's a novelty rather than because it's actually a system that can compete with some of the better laptops that are out there.
It's true. You shouldn't be paying more for a Linux laptop. You don't have the Windows tax. It should be less, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because earlier this year, like April, May, Dell released what they call the XPS 13 Developer Edition, which is essentially that laptop, which I love and covet. And if Leo leaves it laying around, I'll steal.
It's a great laptop.
Because I'm vile that way. And they actually have it preloaded. I'm pretty sure they're running Ubuntu.
They are.
If they have all
in fact, I have the original last year's version of that. Same thing. It's a Dell XPS 13 with Ubuntu on it. The negative is it still has a Windows key, which I'm not sure what that's supposed to do in Ubuntu. It really annoys me to see that Windows key. That might be one argument.
I don't use Windows.
Yeah, it might be one argument to not get a Windows laptop.
But
also,
it's
it's no cheaper. It is. It's a great laptop. I like the bezel-less design. On the other hand, And Dell, by the way, does kind of make sure that the drivers all work, the camera works, everything works.
That's kind of the place you get into. You know, if you buy a fancy new notebook, are you going to be able to get all of the packages you need for the drivers to do all of the stuff inside
Is
of the
Arch
laptop?
Linux like a NASA Linux? Is that the Linux they recommend? Is there a reason you use Arch?
Oh, I like Arch just because you can build it up from scratch
Right.
on your own. And, you know, you install everything you want and you ignore everything you don't want, basically.
Yeah.
So.
It's kind of Gentoo is like that as well. A good package manager, and you just build up the things.
So
you
basically, we're talking to a super user that knows more about Linux than both of us put together.
Well, you know, there's no reason why this wouldn't work. As you know, the issue is drivers. So there's there's a trackpad driver, and it's got Arch has to have that available. There's keyboard driver. There's motherboard drivers. Camera you probably don't care about. Sound you may or may not care about. But that's the issue always.
Probably care about sound.
So there's a great site.
I do listen to music.
Yeah, all right. Well, you probably do want sound to work. This is a site I've long recommended called Linux on Laptops. There's dashes between the three words.
Oh, nice.
And they go by manufacturer, and then they talk about which Linux would work, best on it, what the driver, this is most important, what the driver situation is. You want a site where people are that it's active and people are continuing to post stuff about. And you can see this goes back quite a way to the G4. I don't know how up to date this site is, but I would, it looks like they've got the latest MacBooks there too. So I would take a look at that and you'll see what they say. For this distro, for this hardware, which drivers you need, which drivers work, which drivers don't work. Are you running Arch and Dual Boot right now on your Macintosh?
No, I have it on another computer at the office or at the lab. But right now I'm actually on the OS X side doing this because in general, the iSight camera doesn't work too well with Linux, doesn't play too friendly. So if I want to Skype and look nice, I have to do it on the Mac side.
That's what you're using right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does look good. There's a really good picture.
Yeah, it's funny. Like if you dig around in Lenovo's support site, they'll give you an idea. It's funny. Like again, going back to laptops, I forgot even existed. And they tend to concentrate on Red Hat and a lot of Ubuntu support on theirs, but you'll see it. I think part of it's the advantage. I don't think you're paying a lot more if you're going to System 76 or something like that. You are going with a smaller company, so they're buying fewer laptops, so they get fewer deals. Because they're not buying all of the laptops the way Dell or
so that might be why it costs a little bit more.
The flip side, if you can take a look at something like the XPS 13 or one of the Lenovo laptops, if any of their laptops appeal to you, you can take a look and see whether or not you can get the packages available with that you need to get the driver support for everything.
That's what Cory Doctorow does. He buys Lenovo, he buys ThinkPads. I wonder if he still does in light of the latest revelations about how Lenovo's screwing with people. But Lenovo laptops then puts Linux, blasts Windows off. He doesn't want any bit of Windows on there and puts Linux on them. The other thing about Arch, since it's well supported, is, and that's the distro you want to use. I was just Googling Arch on laptops, and I see a lot of posts, here's Arch Linux on a VAIO laptop, sound quality issues. This is where Linux really benefits from a user base that's devoted and smart and can write their own drivers. And so what I would do is I would probably look at which laptops people are having the best experience with in terms of drivers and go with that one. I mean, you already have a Mac. I would start with the Mac and see how it works, You're saying the iSight's the big issue?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge issue because I don't really use it, except for when I come on your awesome show. But
what, are you writing in Python for NASA? What language does NASA use for this stuff?
Oh, we use a lot of languages. We use MATLAB, we use LabVIEW, Python, all of the web dev stuff. I do a lot of web dev right now because I'm building out a database for the lab, but I've also coded in Python. We have another intern who's doing Python in our group as well. So, and our instruments are controlled with LabVIEW, so we're all over the place. We use anything basically.
What did you study in college?
Oh, well, actually, I have a master's in ethnomusicology.
Of course, because that makes the best programmers.
And
I have a lit degree. Chinese studies, no degree. We just had a Lisp programmer, a guy who worked for Inference Systems and was writing Lisp, Artificial Intelligence for American Express for many years. I said, how'd you get into that? He said, well, I was a music composition major in college and was a professional composer teaching composition, but the jobs kind of dried out, so I thought, well, Lisp, why not? I think there's definitely a nexus between musicians and programmers. There's just something about that. Almost all the programmers I know are at least, competent amateur musicians. Magicians too. Musicians.
We do magic all the time.
Little sleight of hand. Hey, it's really nice to meet you, Margot. Please stay in touch. Let us know what you're doing at JPL. I think that's exciting.
Yeah, if you want a tour, just let me know. I'm actually going to be moving up to Santa Cruz because I'm going to be doing a PhD in robotics. So I'm hoping to come by to your studio and actually sit in on one of these.
That would be awesome.
I've been watching your show since I was like 13 and on ZDTV, so it's really great to experience it live.
Yeah, Patrick and I are really old.
Yeah, just kidding.
No, that's awesome. It's very nice to meet you, Margot. That's one of the things, if you're a Linux person, part of the thrill and the fun of it is you gotta often have to roll it yourself.
Your blanket, your sack of cookies, your
I
bottle
felt
of
guilty
tequila.
buying a Dell laptop with Linux already installed. It's like, well, if I were a real Linux user, I'd figure it out on my own. So. It's really nice to meet you, Margot. Thanks for joining us.
Both of you.
I hope we helped you a little bit. We'll see you next time
Absolutely.
when you're up here in Santa Cruz. That's just around the corner. What fun is that?
Robotics in Santa Cruz.
Huh?
Robotics in Santa Cruz. That's going to be fun.
What a great major. If you were starting out today, what would you major? What would be the subject matter you'd focus on?
I'll probably get a welding certificate.
Welding would be very useful. I hear underwater welding. You can always get work.
Yes,
Yeah.
but there's that whole bend
Drowning thing?
problem.
I know. Well, what can you do? Coming up in just a little bit. Oh, first we should tell you, if you want to be on the show, we need more calls. Here's how you get on the show. Watch this.
Need tech help? The new screensavers are here with answers. Email your tech questions to newscreensavers@twit.tv.
We need more questions, so if you want to be on the show, please email us and give us your questions. Who's co-hosting next week? Mike Elgin will be. So ask us your Google Plus questions. We should get a lot of those coming in right away. Are you? Wow. Got big Google Plus questions for you. Are you sick of GoPro footage that's just a little shaky? We have a really interesting guest. I should get over there. Get over there and get ready because we're going to talk slick. But first, let me tell you a little bit about our great sponsor, Braintree. If you're a mobile developer and you want to put payments in your mobile app, you could roll it yourself. But as Steve Gibson always says, between the issues of cryptography and interfacing with the financial systems, there is a lot of risk in doing it yourself. Why do it yourself when you can go to Braintree? Braintree solves it all for you with a robust, reliable, secure solution that's about 10 lines of code. It will work in just about every environment. And as soon as you've installed Braintree in your app, suddenly now you can take PayPal, Venmo, Bitcoin, Apple Pay, credit cards, and a whole lot more. It's so easy. It's so simple. Payouts are fast, superior fraud protection, and your customers, this is the most important, will love it. The customers are used to it. They use Braintree with Uber. Isn't that the secret sauce to Uber, is how fast and easy it is to pay and get out of that car? That's their one-touch SDK. They also do it with Lyft and Airbnb, with StubHub and GitHub. GitHub, yeah, you use GitHub, you know GitHub. Airbnb, hotels tonight. I love Braintree, I know you will too, and your managers will, and your product manager will, and your boss will. Everybody's gonna love it. So, if you're the developer or if you're the boss, I want you to go right now to BraintreePayments.com/NSS for new screensavers. Take a look at the sandbox, play with it. They've got great help and customer service there. In fact, they'll even do the integration for you if you want. BraintreePayments.com/NSS. And if you need a little incentive, maybe a little something to bring to the boss and say, hey, we got to do this, they'll give you your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. Nice savings. BraintreePayments.com/NSS. Give it a try today. Patrick Norton has leapt up onto, he's wearing a helmet, which worries me. He's leapt up onto the Sky booth. He's got a great interview coming up.
We have this beautiful single shot on. Should I talk about the Slick?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the Slick stabilization mount for the GoPro. If you'll notice something, I am moving, and the
look at that!
Is staying level. This is a big deal if you are actually moving around. Joining me is the founder of Slick, Thomas Agarate. Sir, are you excited?
Hi.
Your Indiegogo. This is an Indiegogo project. This is your beta, your sample, your proof of concept, and it is blowing up. Is that safe to say?
I guess, yes, it's working pretty good. So
this is, so the Indiegogo just launched August 18th.
Yep.
Have you guys already been funded yet?
We launched on August 18th, and we reached our goal in 5 hours. So yes.
Congratulations! This is exciting. So,
yep.
Obviously GoPro cameras are a big deal. They are all over YouTube. People use them for everything these days. Were you just tired of watching YouTube videos with shaky cameras? What was the inspiration?
It's especially when you go, for example, skiing, and at the end of the day, you have dozens of files. You don't know what to do with this because it's shaky. You can keep only few seconds which are usable, and then you have to edit them. You have to stabilize them.
Sure.
So, and not everybody knows how to stabilize them. So this is inspiration. So you capture some smooth videos, you get back home, and you already have one edit which is really smooth, and then you share it with your friends.
Now, I know Father Robert probably pounced on this. I was certainly thinking this, like, oh, will I be able to put it on a quadcopter? Can I hang it off of the drone in the final version?
You can put it almost everywhere because it has a GoPro mount. So if your drone has a GoPro mount, you will be able to put it on your quadcopter.
What is the cost on this going to be?
The cost, so today you can pre-order it for $210, and the retail price will be around $280.
Will this work with pretty much any of the GoPros, even the new Session?
Yeah, so it works with from the GoPro 3 to the GoPro 4 Session, and because the GoPro 4 Session is a little bit smaller, because the center of gravities are really important on this product, so we will just add a little piece of plastic.
Counterweight?
Yeah, counterweight. So, but a design piece. So.
One of the big challenges with the GoPro, obviously, is battery life. If you're out all day, you're carrying a pocket full of batteries. How much battery life can I expect out of this Slick?
So, because the GoPro battery's life is 2 hours, we decided to use a battery which lasts 2 hours as well. So, when you change the GoPro battery, you just change the Slick's battery.
So who do you expect is going to buy these? Who's kind of gotten on board first?
Do you like action sports?
I've been known to enjoy an action sport, yes.
Okay. So you just have to go on Indiegogo and pre-order it. All the action sports lovers, either you like skiing, snowboarding, kayaking, surfing, whatever. You use a GoPro, you're tired of bad footage, so...
It is time. It is time to step up your game.
It's a new GoPro experience, actually.
I notice, you've done some nice work with acetone, but this is a 3D printed example. You're not going to 3D print the final version, are you?
Of course not. No.
Who's building them for you?
This one?
No. When it comes time to ship and you have a bazillion orders, are they going to be made in China or are you making them in France?
China.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've partnered up with a manufacturing company?
We have partnered, with a manufacturing company who is going to optimize the product for massive production, and then this partner knows exactly which factory to choose to don't have any bad.
They know who can do the job.
Things, yeah.
What was the biggest challenge of building the prototype? I mean, there's a lot going on. I mean, you've got, is there a gyroscope in here and axis stabilization?
Yeah, there are plenty of sensors inside. But the most important thing, I guess, is to get a design which is pretty cool, because action sports lovers, they like
They want to look
nice
cool.
Things. Yeah, this has to be cool, not only technical, and it has to be compact. So in this stabilizer, you have 3 motors, you have sensors, you have a battery, you have a microprocessor, you have plenty of things, and you have to put them in a little amount of space. So
you're obviously not putting a Raspberry Pi or a full Arduino board in here.
Yeah, kind of.
Awesome. So when does the Indiegogo close for this?
People have 40 more days, but only few units left at the $210 price. Then the price is going to raise. So.
The classic Indiegogo quandary. Do I buy early or do I buy early? Because the price ratchets up the longer you wait, right?
Yeah, that's exactly this.
Thomas, thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got email questions coming up for you, but first, we got photographer Jim Cutler with a tip for taking pictures of lightning.
Hey, this is Jim Cutler. Have you ever tried to capture lightning in a bottle? have you ever tried to take a picture of lightning with a camera? I did it once when I was a little kid. By setting up a camera on the windowsill, I held the button down to keep the shutter open, and within 2 seconds, bang, I got this shot. I was hooked. Holy cow, this is easy to do. Well, ever since then, I've never been able to duplicate it. That was a lucky accident. It's really hard to take pictures of lightning. You see a lot of great lightning shots. How do they do it? Well, one of the ways is with this. This is called the lightning trigger. The window looks at the lightning, and as soon as it sees a flash, or the beginnings of a flash, it trips your camera shutter. It instantly opens it up. Now, how could this be faster than lightning? It's very interesting. Lightning is actually not one quick shot. It's actually about 10 or 15 micro shots. Blink, 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 blink. And this captures the first couple of blinks of the lightning and opens the shutter, and your camera takes a picture of the rest. So what you get is a cool shot like this. Now, this isn't the greatest lightning shot, but it shows you what you can easily do in 5 minutes with the lightning trigger. I did this today. But you could take great pictures with better composition and if you have more time. This little device is great. It needs a 9-volt battery. It needs a different little cord for every camera. It works with Sony, Nikon, Canon, Panasonic, a whole bunch, all the popular cameras. But check the website for your particular model to be sure.
I'm confused. I think that sounds impossible. Jim Cutler, the great voiceover artist for the original ZDTV and Tech TV, and of course he continues to offer his services to us at no charge because I can't afford him on Twit. He's the greatest guy. But I'm curious because is that sound triggered? It's light triggered. Yeah. And so it's fast enough to open the lens. Oh, because there's more than one flash. I get it. At first I thought it was sound triggered. I thought, well, that's going to be not very good because the lightning comes first.
You get a wonderful shot of the sound in the dark sky.
It's time for our mailbag. May I have the mailbag, please? Thank you.
Dun, dun, dun.
Boom, boom, boom. Let me see. One of these is for you. That's for you. And one of these is for me. I'll start.
Okay.
Rob from Tennessee writes, me and 3 of my friends play games on Steam. Rob, it's 3 of my friends and I. Can you get that right? But I keep hearing a little correction, Rob. Go back to school. Stop playing games.
Question.
Oh, but I keep hearing about the LAN party days. Yeah, in the old days, we'd get a bunch of kids together in the same room and we'd all play on the local area network.
Doom 3, yo.
For what I gather, I need a router connected from the main router with a hard drive with the games and the switch and the pudding pops. But I don't know how it all works. Can you help? No kidding, he doesn't know how it all works. So, LAN party. First of all, you need a server.
Right.
And the server can be local, right? You're playing right now. You play games on any Steam has a server. Blizzard has a server. Xbox Live, PlayStation Network. They all have servers that you join, and then other people join. You meet in the lobby. You get a party.
Well, I mean,
together.
it's kind of like, first you need a space where everybody can sit down.
Which is great.
It could be a bunch of folding tables. It could be everybody that brings their computer to your house, right? You go to the kitchen table. Everybody sits around the kitchen table. Everybody hopefully has an Ethernet card because you want everybody to have really good ping time so that there isn't the one person on Wi-Fi that's getting slaughtered because their system is so much slower.
But that is one advantage of a LAN party. Unlike going out on the public internet, you're going to have much better ping times, much better response. Now, where do you get this? The server is a separate computer.
Could be a separate computer. Generally speaking, it's nice to have it run on a separate computer. So
it's all its attention is devoted to the game.
Yes. Well, it's kind of funny, right? So you need a big table or a collection of tables. Yep. Everybody's got to set their gear up.
There you go.
You need there we go. So notice all the cables there. The cables there are running to switches.
Notice the CRTs there. This is an old picture.
This is a very old picture, but glorious nonetheless. So you run the cables. You need but I'm laughing. Right?
Network switches so that you can plug those cables into each.
Yes.
Do they have to? Is it a switch or just a hub?
Switch. Nobody sells. Hubs are dead.
Hubs are dead. Get a switch.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, get a switch or get a stack of switches or have people bring their switches over so you can have.
So you can plug all those Ethernet cables into a switch.
Exactly. Make sure there's enough extension cords for everybody. You have enough power. There's nothing more sad than having a bunch of people pulling like 600 watts on their multi-GPU systems, then wiping out the power in the kitchen while everybody's playing. Not that I know people that have done that.
Might happen easily. Yeah.
Well, so in which case, extension cords you run to the other parts of the house on different circuits.
Or borrow some power from the neighbor. They won't notice.
You know, was nothing quite like having.
Oh my God! There is a giant LAN party.
This is from QuakeCon.
QuakeCon.
QuakeCon is insane and awesome and amazing and kind of scary.
And people notice bring their desktop gaming rigs. Most of the time now it's gonna be a laptop, or maybe if you had a shuttle.
That was probably a really recent picture of QuakeCon.
Okay. Hey, if you're playing at QuakeCon, you want to have a really good gaming system. You want to show off.
Yes.
So the server can run, a lot of games will have server capabilities. Even Minecraft, you can run a server.
Yeah. And
Team Fortress is
If you have
popular.
children, you probably want to have your own Minecraft server.
Yeah. Do you?
We're just easing. There was an incident involving my spouse and someone she was involved with a video game habit that left her with an incredibly bad taste for the entire industry.
So she really says, not in my watch.
Well, we sort of
no LAN parties
we
here.
sort of stealthed in sort of edutainment and then some sort of more video games that were child friendly and
sometimes when you buy the game, there'll be a server component in the game. Sometimes you have to download a separate server component.
The big thing is for everybody to talk about what games they want to play and then figure out what you need to run that.
We used to play Halo. That was a lot of fun. Remember on the screensaver set? What were the games we most often played in our LAN parties?
I just remember getting sniped a lot.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter what game
Dan
it was.
Howard and Kevin Rose. Those guys were sons of guns.
They spent a lot of time tuning the systems.
And Joshua Brentano, he was the worst.
Brentano was frightening.
So yeah, I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. In fact, it's easier because unlike doing it on the internet, you don't have to open ports, port forward, set your router up and stuff. It's all going to be it's coming from inside the house. So the server can talk to everybody easily and fast.
It's mostly about planning. Does everybody own a copy of this game?
Right.
Have I set up the server?
Oh, that's a good point. Each person would have to have their own copy of the game, right?
Yes.
You can't use the same copy because it looks up and says, wait a minute, each person
It
has
gets
to have their own
awkward.
copy. Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why you find a lot of older games being played at LAN parties because they're cheap and everybody's willing to buy them.
You can even do it. They're playing.
Speaking of
looks
old
like
games.
Doom, right?
Yeah. This is the future.
The future. Doom has a built-in server. That's how we first started doing it. Was running the Doom game server. Cranky Hippo, that's you.
Yeah, this is me and Alex playing at his house. This is the LAN party we had a few weeks ago playing Doom.
That's kind of sad.
What was your biggest challenge?
kind of pathetic, really.
Yeah, it was a Friday night, so pretty wild, right?
Hey, listen, as somebody used to hang out at the Barnes & Noble off Route 22, LAN party's okay. You do what you got to do, man.
I think it's a great idea. I know Paul Thurrott brings his Xbox over, and you can do these with consoles as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they'd run the server, but they all get together, they all bring their Xboxes, and they play Call of Duty against each other in the same room. And the thing that's cool about this, as opposed to playing on the internet, is when you frag somebody, you can stand up and mock them, and they're right there. Got you! It's so much fun. Okay, you got the next question.
So wrong.
Oh, I love it.
Just I was about
teabagging you. I'm teabagging you. I know where your mind was. In the gutter.
Oh my goodness. On ye old screensavers, writes Eric. Patrick introduced us to all sorts of great punk bands like Flogging Molly and Dropkick Murphys. What bands have surfaced since those days that you'd recommend? You know, one of the complicated things about having children in my case is that between having children and buying a house, my days have not been filled with discovering a lot of new and exciting punk bands. That's okay. Because I resisted a lot of the online music services for a long time because mostly they sounded crappy. And
what do you
I didn't want to
use?
listen to them.
Spotify?
I've been using Spotify a lot.
I love Spotify.
With
and
the
you can
settings
turn it up
jacked
so it's 320 kilobit, right?
Which is pretty solid stuff. I've been kind of obsessed lately. I went through sort of an Americana phase, and then that got into a lot of modern bluegrass is really amazing. The Punch Brothers are incredible.
So instead of Flogging Molly's, you're listening to kind of an American version, like Flogging Chad.
Well,
Flogging Justin. Flogging Jason.
Flogging Bieber. That sounds so
Flogging
wrong.
Bieber.
That's so right.
Now that would be a good band. I'd join that.
That could be a reality show that everyone would love. It's kind of funny. What I have been doing a lot lately is, starting with like the 100 greatest punk songs of all time, and then picking an artist, then going to related artists and just exploring.
Nice.
And at this point, I don't really have any good bands to recommend, except that, whether you're Spotify or Tidal or Apple Music or whatever it is, just start exploring the stuff you've never heard before.
Yeah.
A lot of the related artist recommendations and a lot of people's mixes or the auto-generated mixes are pretty fantastic.
That's what's great about streaming services. You have the whole 40 million song universe available to you. And is there a pretty good representation of these bands on there?
Yeah, I was actually shocked. Like somebody put one of the primary Spotify lists, I think, is the 100 greatest punk songs of all time. And I agreed with most of the selections, which I was really shocked by.
So that's just on the net. Can I search for that and then?
Yeah, just go inside of Spotify.
Would you make a Spotify playlist and share it with all of our fans?
You know, it sounds a little frightening, but I'll go for it.
I think that would be a great thing to have.
It's been funny because, like I said, streaming music was so atrocious for so long. Now it's actually gotten good, and it's funny as somebody Operation Ivy reference. It took me almost 2 years, even living in New York City with access to 3 of the best record stores in the planet. It still took me like 2 years to get a copy of like Operation Ivy's first album.
Those
right?
are the days.
And
you get
now,
the import vinyl. Oh,
this was just trying to find a CD or a cassette, right? It was this long, arduous, painful process.
You didn't have vinyl in your day.
Oh no, I had vinyl in my day, but as soon as CD came out, I never had to deal with a scratched vinyl or a tape that had been eaten by my janky cassette again.
We used to go to Tower Records in the import bin and look for those rare and hard to find records.
I know, I mean, the sort of San Francisco equivalent of that was Amoeba Music.
Amoeba.
And
awesome.
I've taken my son into Amoeba Music, and he doesn't know what to do because there's music everywhere.
I remember taking Henry. I said, "Let's go to the record store." He said, "What's a record?" So times change; they move fast. Patrick Norton. One thing never changes. I adore you. It's great to have you. It's like old times every time you're here.
It's been a pleasure.
And I think we can count on you coming back on a regular basis.
If you'll keep having me, I'll keep coming back.
And of course, you can see Patrick every week on his tech thing.
TEKTHING.com or youtube.com/tech thing.
Yeah, you and
the
Stubbs, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And it's a fast-paced, full of good stuff. It's really kind of, it's a great tech variety show, kind of like the new Screensavers. Nice to see you again.
It's a little simpler. We don't have this amazing 42 camera setup like you have. We're a leaner operation.
Yeah, you probably. That's a good idea. Well done. Nice idea. We want to thank you all for joining us. We do the new Screensavers Saturday afternoons, 3 p.m. Pacific. That's about 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 2200 UTC. If you want to watch live, we love it. If you do, you can be in the chat room and kind of be a fly on the wall. We also love having a studio audience, and there's always room for one more. So just email tickets@twit.tv. We'll make sure we set a seat out for you. You can also get on-demand versions of all the shows on Twit at twit.tv, in this case, twit.tv/NSS, on YouTube, youtube.com/thenewscreen. Is it The New Screensavers? I ask this every show, and no one has yet looked it up, but it's on there, trust me. And in fact, we've got live streaming video right now on my YouTube channel. I've been streaming all of this from the Note 5.
It's kind of frightening.
It's probably killed the battery by now. And of course, you can subscribe. There it is. That's 40 cameras plus that.
Is it still running?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it still running, Jerry? Can you see a picture on it?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. It's me. Please get it every week. Subscribe. That's probably the best way. Make sure you don't miss another episode. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on the new Screensavers. Bye-bye, everybody. Golf clap. Golf clap.
Golf clap is very important.
Golf clap.